Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to chat about a few of the factors that go into the process of choosing your law school. So a lot of you have probably gotten a few acceptances back and are thinking about starting the process, and it's a really exciting time, so congratulations to all of you who are doing that right now. A few of you had asked about the process by which I chose to go to Stanford, and instead of talking about that, which is it involves a lot of personal factors that wouldn't be relevant to everyone, I decided to talk about a general breakdown of things to consider. So the first thing I want to talk about is basically cost. Law school is not a cheap endeavor. It does have the added advantage over other graduate programs, maybe, of offering a little bit more job security. Depending on what law school you go to and how well you do in school, it's not that difficult to find a firm job after graduation and to have some sort of income that will be guaranteed. If you're interested in government work or public interest work, the cost factor is not so certain. As far as cost goes, that's kind of a personal consideration. I mean, only you know the state of your finances and how much risk you're willing to take on in terms of student debt. I will say that some things to consider are each school's loan repayment assistance program. So some schools have a program that helps students who are going into public interest or some types of government work that don't pay as much as private sector work. That helps them repay their student loans or defers those payments. And you also want to take a look at the job outcomes for the career office at your school. So this kind of tracks with the ranking and the resources that the school has to offer. But some schools put more of an emphasis than others on helping students find not only a job, but the right job. So you can look at their materials and take a look at their approach, see whether they emphasize, student happiness, mental health outcomes, all of that. I mean, I know that's not directly related to the cost of your education, but it is related to the sort of outcome that you can expect to have once you leave that institution. Cost is a factor that's closely associated with ranking in my mind because fortunately or unfortunately, the legal profession is quite elitist and pays a lot of attention to the ranking of your institution and sort of your ranking within that institution, if that makes sense. Going to a school that is more highly ranked is a way of having doors open for you that might not otherwise open. And I also wouldn't assume that a more highly ranked school will be more expensive. In my process, I actually got the most money from Stanford, which really surprised me because they are, an extremely highly ranked school, and you would think that it would sort of track, the lower schools want you more, so they would give you more money. But that's not always true. So don't set your mind before you have all of your options in front of you. And definitely talk to the financial aid office if you have any specific questions. They're the ones that are going to be able to give you the most details and help guide you through that process. Another factor to consider is the location of the school. The way that the law school timeline works, everything is pretty accelerated when it comes to looking for a job. So for a lot of students who are planning to go into firm life, private sector work, the job you apply to before your 2L summer, which actually at Stanford, happens at the end of 1L year, that job that you work your 2L summer will probably lead to a job offer for after law school, and that job is probably where you'll work for at least the first couple years of your, career. The location of your law school matters because your school is going to be more plugged into the local network. So if you want to work in the Bay Area, for example, it's not going to make sense to go to a school in, the Deep South or even the Northeast, like coastal schools. It just really makes more sense to aim yourself toward the market if you have a very clear idea. Now, one thing, going back to ranking, is if you go to a more highly ranked school, it is a little bit easier to be more mobile and to move around a little bit. But there are certain instances where, a market really privileges students from its own area. So, for example, one of my professors pointed out that it's really hard to get a job in Baltimore, Maryland, if you're not from that area. They look really askance upon graduates from law schools that seem sort of random. That's not to say that you have to know where you want to end up. There's definitely some flexibility, again, especially if you are going to a more highly ranked law school. But if you know where you want to end up, then it definitely makes sense to aim yourself there. You also want to consider the location of the school for more immediate reasons because you're going to be living in that city for at least 3 years. You might, be able to go somewhere else for the summer, but during the school year, the environment matters. Stanford likes to tout its really nice weather as a factor, and I'm not going to say that was a big factor for me, but it does make a difference in overall happiness because you're going to be extremely busy as a law student no matter what, and if you go to a place where you can sit outside and feel the sunshine on your face versus being somewhere like Chicago where I went to undergrad, it makes a slight difference. Location also does play into the sort of resources that are available. So for example, some of the upperclassmen here do externships at local nonprofits that are located in the city or in Oakland or in the San Jose area. So there's a robust network of opportunities in the Bay that the school kind of feeds into. You can also kind of consider what sort of work you're interested in doing. Like if you want to work in financial markets, it makes sense to go to New York. If you're interested in tech, obviously the Bay Area is a great place for that. Entertainment would be Los Angeles, so while that's not determinative, it is something to consider when you're looking at location as a whole. You also want to look at the resources that the school offers. So that would be in terms of extracurriculars, general support, and practical experience. So one of the reasons why I chose Stanford was because the quarter system allows us to do clinics, which is basically an experience guided by a practitioner or a faculty member where you are providing direct legal services to a client while still in law school. So it allows you to preview what you would be doing as a lawyer and gain some really valuable firsthand experience. If that's something that's important to you, you want to look for a school that is going to give you an option like that, so that you won't have to just be stuck doing coursework for 3 straight years. You may also want to look at the faculty at the school. So if you have a very targeted area of focus, look to whether the school has a person who does something like that, because that will reflect not only course offerings, but the school's own priorities. So for example, if you are interested in critical race theory in the legal field, you probably would want to go to a school that either has a dedicated critical race theorist, which is not that common, or you want to go to a school that is open to inviting professors and is open to student feedback about what is important to them. In terms of faculty, class size also can matter. Another factor for me in choosing Stanford was its really small class size, which means a great faculty to student ratio. That's not a huge deal for everyone, because no matter what, for the first 1 or 2 years, you're going to be in like a pretty large seminar being cold called, so that doesn't really matter. But having a better faculty to student ratio does allow you to build bonds more quickly if you're thinking about doing clerkships or other things that need a professor's recommendation. If you're moving within the T14, or even if you're not, the faculty prestige can also matter. A lot of times faculty are the ones who, might pick up the phone to recommend you for a clerkship or to help you look for a job, even in some rare instances. So having access to people who move in a certain circle or have a certain type of experience can be very helpful as well. Finally, and I think maybe most importantly, you want to look at the overall feeling that the school gives you, and that's going to encompass its culture, its resources, its priorities, and its dedication to its students. A big issue that's actually not talked about too much in the legal profession is mental health. When you're in law school, that's basically when you're laying the foundation for your mental health outcomes as a practitioner. So I think personally, to me, it's important to go to a school that is open to talking about that and is open to providing resources toward that. You also want to look at the type of community that the law school strives to create, if they try to create a community at all. So part of that is the selection process and the admissions process, but part of that is, do they go out of their way to create mentorship opportunities for you? Do their affinity groups, such as, the Black Law Students Association or the Asian American Students Association, or any particular interest groups like, intellectual property law or even the Federalist Society or whatever, do those groups have a lot of support, and are they able to create robust programming that gives students a variety of resources and interesting talks and that sort of thing? Basically, the intellectual environment outside of the classroom can be very, very important as well. And finally, you want to look at the overall culture that the school fosters among its students and whether that's a good fit for what you want. Some schools, don't focus too much on that. Some schools try to make it more competitive, and some schools make it more collegial. That can also tie to the class size and the way that the sections within the class are broken down. Now, not all of these factors are going to be weighted equally for everyone, obviously, so maybe the first thing to do is to sit down and prioritize these factors for yourself. I would also advise reaching out to current students. They are the only ones, basically, who can really tell you what it's like at that school. A lot of schools have a program, where someone will reach out to you before Admitted Students Weekend, but even if they don't, you should be proactive and try to find someone to talk to. It's good to get a range of experiences because, usually it's 1Ls, I think, who reach out to newly admitted students, but, you have to think that 1Ls haven't been there for that long. They've been there for less than a year, and so their perspective is going to be a little bit skewed, just as my perspective is skewed. it's useful to talk to someone who's a 2L or a 3L to get a little bit more of a long-range perspective, or even to find an alumnus in the field who is doing something that is similar to what you would like to do or something that you're interested in, to talk maybe about the transition from the law school's resources to that career path. You'll find that people are generally very, very happy to talk to you as you're making your decision, so definitely don't be shy about reaching out. I would also advise that you attend Admitted Students Weekend if possible. Obviously, not everyone there is going to end up at the school, but you could end up making some really great friends, and that goes a long way towards sort of easing any anxieties during orientation. So that's my brief wrap-up of some of the factors to consider when choosing a law school. Obviously, it's not a comprehensive list, and everyone is going to have a slightly different approach. But I hope that's helpful. If you guys have any questions or have any topics that you'd like to see me address in a later video, please let me know in the comments. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so now, and thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time.